All right. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon somewhere out there in the world. This is Real Talk with EVE once again. Happy Thursday. Feliz Jueves. And I hope that we are coming through clearly here. We have an amazing guest today. For those of you that saw the invite, thank you for accepting and joining us here live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and also on Facebook. And I invited quite a bit of people to go and watch it because, I'm all about bringing solutions to the table. And if we're not, then who else is going to do it if we don't do it, right? And so I've often been talking about safety, even in the public, even in private places where I've been. I'm always looking for error before it happens, right? And when I mean looking for error, is I see a area rug in a restaurant lifted, someone can trip. So I go and tell these people, hey, this got caught up in the door. I almost slipped. And what if it's an elderly person? They're going to get hurt, right? Also, there's a quick story before I bring up my awesome guest. He is an author, a speaker, a well-known speaker, and also a safety consultant. And we've worked together in the past because safety is the utmost important thing for me, especially when it comes to our youth, but also in a place of employment. We don't think about these things. And when COVID hit, there was a young man in Northwest Indiana that died of myocarditis. And unfortunately, he died the first day he went back to school after COVID. He had gotten sick and whatnot. And so, AED, CPR, those things, do we really think about them? Do we even think it's important in our workplace, in our schools especially? And are the staff readily and available to know what to do in case of an emergency that they need to use an AED? First of all, do you all even know what that is? Have you been certified in CPR? I know I have in the past. Do I need to recertify? Yes, I think so. Because we don't know who may be choking next to us or who can be needing the AED defibrillator. We don't know anything about that if we are not properly trained. And I want to talk to you, the employees, the employers. Take note of things, get your notepad, get your pen and paper to write down some of the things that you should know. So I am going to bring up to the stage David A. Ward Sr. And of course, he speaks and he's going to speak to us here. And welcome to Real Talk with EVE. Dave, I know I brought you before to talk about safety at a different topic. And we also brought you back to talk about the veterans, right? And what government should be
Yes,
doing or
absolutely.
is not doing, because that's important too, right? And we're going to bring you back to talk
Yes,
about veterans because so many things are happening with the new administration and whatnot. And I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk about our servant leaders, our veterans, and what they are going through, right? So,
absolutely.
welcome once again to Real Talk with EVE. And I know that you've been traveling from one place to another. I think you went all the way across country to a conference, and then you went the other way to Michigan to another conference. So, I know that you've been
Yes,
kept busy. And we hope that with this interview, it'll expand your map so that people can actually call into you and realize that after they hear what they're going to hear, that they should hire you. They should call you to bring you in and speak on stage or speak at their school or speak at their corporation, their company about safety because it's important. And you've been a great expert working with OSHA in the past, so you know the ins and outs of safety in every sense of the word safety. I mean, even drinking water could be a safety hazard, right?
absolutely.
Is the water polluted? Does the water have high in lead and arsenic and whatever else, right? And who best to test it? The person that knows. And do we want to give our students, our children, our faculty water that they shouldn't drink, right? Or the restaurants. Should we not concern ourselves about the temperature? We talked about that previously, right? So
Yes.
there's so many different aspects of different topics we can talk about when it comes to safety. But today we're going to hone on in for the CPR and the AED. And first of all, tell us a little bit about who David A. Ward Sr. is.
Well, I spent 6 years in the United States Air Force, 23 years with the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was a national safety examiner, went through every federal prison throughout the United States, examined their health care, their food service, their transportation, their warehouse. operations, and so forth.
Wow.
And I went to OSHA as a federal investigator. I did the whistleblower, but I also participated within the safety realm of it as well. Mostly did the Service Transportation Act, which is for transportation vehicles, commercial vehicles. Um, then I was participating in the Federal Railroad Administration. I dealt with a lot of cases there. And then 11C, which is just safety stuff. And so then after that, I turned around and retired from there and opened up my own safety consulting business, as you know, because you were the Hispanic liaison coordinator there. And what we were
Yes.
trying to do was make a difference in the Hispanic community because it was the Hispanic workers that were dying and getting severely injured. And it seemed that nobody gave a damn. Well, I
Yes. And
think
it still seems
you
like
know,
that. Okay.
yes, it does, even today. And it's a sad commentary on where we're at. Then I hooked up with Century Insurance. I became a national account safety consultant for them, took care of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee, and wherever else they saw fit to send me. Dealt with a lot of different agencies and manufacturing companies, warehouse, distribution centers, and so forth. Then I retired, and then I wrote a
Woohoo.
couple.
But did you really retire? Come on now, Dave.
No, I haven't really retired, and I'm probably never going to because I
Right?
love what I do. And, if I can just get one person to change their mind, or if I could save one person's life by letting them think about how important what they're doing is and their family, because it all really evolves around the family.
For
And
sure.
a
For
lot of people
sure. And it's your
think
passion that continues to get you there, Dave. I see it, especially when I hear you talking about it. I mean, you just like light up and you're like, this is why I do what I do. And as I always say, when you do your passion, what you're most compassionate and passionate about is your purpose. Therefore, it's not a job, it's your
that's true.
mission.
It's not a
You're
job,
on a
it's a
mission.
yeah, you're exactly right. It is a mission. It's a
It
mission
is.
with a message.
Exactly. And so, thank you once, first of all, for your servants, being that
You're
servant
more than
leader for the time you've given to our country. And that has to be well respected. Thank you so much for that. We honor you and all the soldiers that are here and those that are the unsung heroes that are no longer here with us, right?
absolutely.
So I have to ask you, did something happen to you that made you want to go and do this type of field, this type of career? What what
You
what
know,
what struck that said this is what I need to do?
because I really wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference. Uh, you see a lot of things and you hear a lot of things, people dying unnecessarily. Everybody wants to put the blame on somebody else without accepting the true accountability on themselves. And I really believe now that I am totally retired, I could say what I want. I'm going to just be direct.
Keep it real. Keep it real.
I'm going to catch your attention, and you may not like me at that point, but you're going to respect me at the end.
Yeah, there you go. And they'll understand, wow, now I see why he does what he does. Because if it wasn't for him at that platform at that time, me watching and listening to what he had to say, I can now go to my company and make sure that it's not production over people. It's the other
No,
way around. Let me make sure that my people, my staff members are being kept safe, they're educated, they're trained right in the language that they know, as you and I know that OSHA says, yes, you are to legally train your employees in the language that they know better. Don't just hire them and say, here, you have a job now when an accident happens, right? And also in companies, shouldn't they have an AED? Tell us, first of all, we're going to get into the CPR and AED, and we may have time to talk about other things, but what is AED? What's an AED for those that
it's
don't
an
know?
automated external defibrillator. What it does is put your heart back into rhythm. It sends a shock. If your heart is out of rhythm, it sends a shock to you, and it actually puts your heart hopefully back into rhythm so you can survive. Um, Most people feel intimidated by an AED because they really don't know and they haven't been properly trained. Most companies put it up, but do they actually check it? The pads are important. Pads only have a 2 to 3 year life shelf. And if somebody's not checking that and you go to use it on somebody, then it could really be fatal. And then on the other hand, the batteries. The batteries only last between 3 and 4 years. So it's really important. If you're going to get this, you have to have some outside company or somebody within your company actually perform and look at everything that's in this. To utilize it is simple. It's probably more simple for women than it is for men. And the reason I say that is because once this starts giving you the instructions, most men think they know, and women tend to listen to the instructions. But there was an 8-year-old girl who took this AED at O'Hare Airport, took it off the wall, and actually saved a man's life.
Wow.
So
Who would have
it's
thought?
there.
Did you say 8-year-old?
8-year-old. And if you listen to the instructions, all you have to do is listen and follow the instructions and don't get overwhelmed. We're all going to get excited. It's just like CPR. And that's why everybody needs to be trained in CPR. I don't care if you have 1, 2, 5, 10, 100, 1,500 employees, everybody. We touch 1,000 people's lives every day.
Mm.
Our workforce is getting older. The people we meet at the banks, people we meet at the supermarkets, aren't their lives just as important? So wouldn't you be prepared? And just because you're trained doesn't mean you're going to act.
That is so
Especially
true.
today with all the phones coming out, something happens, everybody wants to videotape. So people are afraid to step out and save that person's life.
And that's the thing. They're not afraid of making sure their cameras or their phones are up and everybody's watching somebody dying, right? Somebody getting shot. Instead of, let me hurry up and try to save this person, right? It's like,
Exactly. Well, it's just
we don't
like
make it our
everything on
business.
LinkedIn. Right. It's just like everything on LinkedIn. All those things that are showing people doing things unsafe, and then somebody had to take a picture of that. Somebody had to use a camera. Somebody had to use a videotape. My question is, why would you allow somebody to do something that unsafe just so you can post it on LinkedIn?
Hmm.
It doesn't make any
That's something.
sense. And
No.
then when we talk about CPR, you don't have to breathe anymore. It's chest compressions that are important. You want to make sure you do those chest compressions. But if you use the chest compressions and the AED, the chances of survival double and even sometimes triple. But you
Mm.
have to do it quickly. You have to respond. You can't have this in an office up in the administration and then a half a mile or 2 miles away is a plant and
Mm.
people are working there. It doesn't work. You won't get
Right.
it there in time.
No, that's sad. Do you know the statistic? If not, I think that should be something we can report. The statistic about, I'm all about education, about our
Right.
youth, and for a school to not have their staff or faculty trained on AED or not have one, what's the
Well,
statistics to say how many students or anyone in need of have died because of a faulty AED or not having one near or not having a staff member not knowing how to use it? I'm interested in knowing that. I'm wondering what the number would
yeah,
be.
we could look that up. That would be a great thing to look up, right? And then on the
Yeah.
other hand, people talking about cost cuts. People talking about how much it costs for an AED. Listen, you can't put a price
How much
tag
does a life cost? Exactly.
on
That's like telling
anyone's life.
people your
It's
life's not worth that.
priceless, right? So $1,500, $2,000, whatever it costs, it's well worth it
They can write a
if it
grant.
saves one person's life.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
grants.
that's
Look
saying
at the grant.
you're not worth it.
Exactly.
Your life is not worth me spending $2,000. What if it was the actual manager in need of it, right? Or the
Right.
owner, the CEO, the COO, the CFO that may be in need of it because they have gotten of age and they somehow end up happening, becoming ill, and all of a sudden they need the AED, but because they didn't want to save, cut corners, right? Let's cut the budget.
Right.
Let's start with our lives. Let's cut the budget there.
There's a
It's
lot of
certainly not
young people. There's a lot of young people with heart problems today, that are
very much,
even undiagnosed. So you
very
turn
much.
around. I mean, it's just like kids at ball fields. It doesn't take much for a baseball to hit you in the chest and knock your heart out of rhythm. Not at all.
That is so true. That is so true. And
Yeah.
we've seen athletes very up
Yes.
there in the media, athletes that are falling out in the middle of a field,
Yes.
basketball court.
Exactly.
How close is an
Exactly.
AED, a defibrillator, close to where they were at, right? Obviously, with athletic personnel, they know how. At least they should know how to use it, right? Same thing with CPR. Restaurant owners, I don't even think they think about that, and that's a place where somebody could be actually choking at a restaurant. So
Yes.
I
There's
don't
some
think. Oh,
signs. Yeah, there's some signs really people need to look at. When somebody stands up very quickly and runs into the bathroom, somebody should be following that individual because they're pretty much they're most likely choking on something, but are embarrassed and stuff and trying to run out of there or trying to run to a
that's
bathroom
something.
and do something on their own. But it's just the same thing. We have a lot of young people in the restaurants and we need to train them on how to save lives. It's in all these restaurants that overload their patrons in there, you have to realize when it comes into an emergency and you need to have the ambulance and medical services respond quickly, man, think about that because every second matters, every minute matters, you know and a lot of people really don't think about that. It's just like, where are the AEDs? Does anybody truly know where they're at? Does anybody have training? Is anybody doing mass casualty training or emergency planning training just for this, just for medical emergencies? We're talking about big facilities. We're talking about different entry points. Does the ambulance know how to get to your facility? I don't know. But if
Do we
somebody's
even
not
know?
performing CPR,
Or wait, when was the last time that they checked to see if the defibrillator works? Just
yep,
like
they're waiting on a company to come out. Yeah, they're waiting on a company to come out and do it once a month. However,
if that.
we walk by that AED every day, right? Why isn't somebody monitoring it? Why isn't somebody actually checking it? It's because everybody's worried about liability. Well, there's a liability if you have it and you let it go. And yeah, you're going to tell me, well, Dave Ward was supposed to inspect it. Well, listen, Dave Ward's only here once a month. Where are you
Right.
at?
If that. If
Exactly.
that. Look, there's schools that don't call for an inspection because they may be violating that inspection and now they may be fined maybe once a year. I mean, as a school board president, my priority was safety. I don't care who's watching or listening. They can call me out and say that's not true. Oh, well, I know it to be true because I would look at the tags of the fire extinguishers because you
Yes.
punch a hole to know when they were last there. In case anybody hasn't looked, I think they should.
Well, that
But
brings up
here's
another good point, though. When you talk about fire extinguishers, let's just talk about that for 1 second because that's
sure,
critically important too.
very much.
People don't know, but fire extinguishers leak. And if people aren't checking that routinely, and I don't mean just once a month, but I'm talking about when they walk by it, somebody should check it because they're also played with and tampered with. And people are doing things today, especially when in this climate that we have, and with all the employees being laid off, you know, not having enough employees, people being fired, that's a great thing to tamper with and then turn around and create a problem. So if you're not inspecting it, wow, you're setting yourself up. The time it takes to inspect a fire extinguisher is 2 to 3 minutes.
Like you said, every second counts. We get upset when the ambulance takes forever. That
Yes.
every minute counts the longer they take to get there, right? To rescue someone, to assist someone, to aid someone. So beyond the hard hat, because I know that I've been sharing pictures and you have a hard hat. This question is, in your experience as a safety consultant, why do we focus so much on external gear like the hard hats, the gloves, while sometimes overlooking that internal preparedness like the CPR? So we're going to get into CPR real quick.
Yes. Well, CPR is tremendously important. Again, it's a life-saving measure, right? And but when we talk about PPE clothing, and I'm going to open up a door, I'm going to open up a can of worms, because
Oh,
I can,
keep it real.
because
Come on, uncensored.
when you look at PPE, and we have all these women in our workforce today, the PPE for the women in the workforce is unacceptable.
Mm.
There's not a lot of companies out there who actually make specific PPE for women. It's a cry that women are doing right now to get the attention that, hey, listen, I can't wear this man's harness for fall protection. It just doesn't work. I can't wear these welder's gloves. It doesn't work. I can't wear this turnout coat or whatever the case may be.
I didn't even think about that. And we talk about fall protection, harness, and all that. There are women in the industry of construction. Actually, they're
Oh,
women
yes,
that own construction companies. Women own. So that's
absolutely.
something to think about, guys. And so um, the chain of survival. You talk about people being the most important, right? The most important link of the quote chain of survivor. How does a layperson immediate reaction change the outcome for a victim before the paramedics even arrive?
Well, again, when you look at some of the policies that are written by companies,
That's
it,
another
it's
thing people don't take the time to do.
well, it's amazing that some say, "Hey, we're not touching Dave Ward until the paramedics come here." You know, and so people need to understand that it's important, again, to train your people, because it just takes, like you said, it takes a second for an accident to occur. A slip, hit your head on one of those pieces of equipment, slip on a stair, crack your head open. Do you have the appropriate equipment to help that person maintain until there is medical help that comes? And most people
Mm.
say, well, I don't even know what we need to do, you know but
Where to
those
start?
little cases, those little first aid kits that these companies put up and come and inspect and charge you monthly fees and stuff, in all actuality, that wouldn't do anything if somebody had an injury, a severe injury. You need blankets, you need towels, you need a tourniquet, you need, things that are going to prevent shock.
Mm.
It's You're going to have gauze. You're going to have 4x4s, 6x4s. You're going to have ice. You're going to have a bags. You're going to have permanent markers just in case there's an appendage that is off. And then you turn around, put it in a bag. So you're not putting it directly on top of the ice that needs to be cooled for that body part to
But Dave, that's
possibly
the
be attacked.
paramedic's job. Why does it need to be mine?
Why? Because
That's the
seconds
attitude.
matter. Yeah. Oh,
Seconds matter.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
That's
just
right.
take a look at that. What happened in Oregon at the Amazon facility in Oregon?
Yeah, that was
Person
crazy.
fell out, had a heart attack, or whatever the case may be. Supposedly, the supervisors were telling the people to get back to work, don't pay attention, turn your back. One lady
Oh,
supposedly was starting CPR. Another guy was trained and they wouldn't allow him to help. And he was telling them that she's not going to be able to do CPR very long because it's tiresome.
it can be. Yeah,
Oh, it is
especially if
tiresome.
it
Not
takes
it
a
can
while.
be.
Especially if
Yeah.
it takes a while for the ambulance to get there, and you're the only person that can help and assist that person laying there needing your help. For sure, every minute
CPR is,
counts.
yes, CPR is life saving. You need to figure it out. You need to turn around. Listen, if you have a baby, if you have children, if you have parents that are living with you, it's important that you learn CPR. Again, just because I train everybody in your house, the husband, the wife, the two kids, maybe the aunt, the uncle, whatever the case may be, maybe only one or two are going to be able to handle that. So that's why when you go to a workforce that has many people, why wouldn't you train everybody?
Everybody. You never know who
Every
may be around you at that time that you decide to, oh, I need somebody giving me CPR. Let's bring it now to the personal community impact. We have just a few minutes, and then I'm going to bring you back again because we're going to talk real quick about your book, The Faces of Safety, and those left behind when tragedy strikes. And we don't think about those things. So the emotional toll that it could take, right? So your book is titled, again, The Faces of Safety. Could you share a story without names, obviously, how immediate action or the lack thereof changed the face of a family's future?
Well, it's really there's a couple stories I could tell. One story, an individual fell off the back of a truck and shattered every bone in his face. And it was only 2 feet off the ground, and people say, well, you can't die. Well, he did. And he left a family behind. Now, this is the part where people really don't get. And this is what I'm trying to bring to the attention of CEOs, CFOs, and COOs and owners that listen, when somebody gets injured or killed at work, it's the family who suffers mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. No
Definitely.
matter that whatever that little check that you're going to cut and give to them, is that going to put their kids through college? Is that going to pay for the house that's still there? We have to start realizing that if we invest in our employees' safety, we invest in their families' futures. And
And the
until we
company's
get,
future, you know,
yes,
here,
yeah,
here
oh,
here's where I'm going
absolutely,
to. Here's what I'm saying: the company's future, because they can go broke in a lawsuit with someone's death that you got a couple $1 million now and you're short of with your policy. And now what?
right,
You're going to have to sell your business to take care of that family because of
yeah,
your
because
ignorance.
for every fatality, it's going to cost the company anywhere between 1.4 plus $1 million.
You better believe
Now,
it.
for injuries, those may be lifetime injuries, back injuries,
That
you
pain
know.
and suffering is going to
Yeah,
cost you. Let
exactly.
me tell you.
So then on the other hand, according to the National Safety Council, if you invest $1 for every $1 you invest in safety, you get a $6 return. So my
Wow.
question to CEOs, owners, and other business heads, why aren't we investing? I'm not a mathematician, but I could tell you if I invest a couple $1,000 in safety, what a return. Because a life is
Huge.
priceless. You can't put a price tag on a life.
No,
And it
can't.
really pisses me off when I'm driving down the road in these construction sites and says if you kill a construction worker, it's $7,500 fine. Who in the hell came up with that figure?
How did they come up with that and not 10 grand, not 5 grand, not 50? How how did they know what dollar figure to put? Well, because they're accidents. Oh, but you have to slow down. You can't be inebriated driving in a work zone, that's for sure. Construction zone. Don't do that. And it has happened on I-65, on 294, on 80, on and on and on in Indiana. And for those of you that are watching from another state, I know that you know that it has happened in your area as well.
Well, the
So
way people drive today,
uh,
and I seen it
they're in a hurry
today.
to go nowhere.
Yes, I seen it today just traveling back from Michigan. 3 cars in and out of every lane, 90 plus miles an hour. Where
Ooh,
were they going? And
ooh.
people, I'm going to give you something to think about since we're talking. When you go 65 miles an hour and your tire blows out, you may be able to handle your car. You go
Maybe.
75 or 80 miles an hour, handling your car on a blowout, pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You
think
go run
about
into
that.
something, someone. Yeah,
Yes.
you do.
So think
So
about
let's
that when you're driving.
exactly. Next time you walk out, make sure that you are going to be cautious when you get on that wheel. Don't drive recklessly, right? Let someone else take the wheel. So, CPR at home, we're talking about the emotional toll that can take. So, most people think of safety, as we were talking about, at a workplace issue. But many cardiac events happen at home, and how many families prepare themselves so they don't freeze in a crisis? How many families do prepare themselves? Little to none, probably. Is it safe to say?
I would say that, yes, absolutely. And even if they were prepared, if as being a mother or father and that infant stopped breathing, you'd be hysterical,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's where,
So
and fear,
who's
to,
yes.
to whose cost, right? But empowerment versus fear. I think the fear kicks in and they don't know what happens. They don't know what to do. They've never been trained, so they don't know how to work it. So, how do we teach? And we're going to go right into the segue into your book. How do we teach the importance of CPR and life saving measures without making people feel afraid of of the world around them? Same thing with the AED, the defibrillator. How?
Easy.
How can we do that?
If you
How do we teach
if
them?
you have to first of all, every family member should understand that their family members' lives are in their hands. Listen, it doesn't take much to put your hands like this and press down on the chest. You
Yeah,
have
that
to
is
take a
true.
deep breath. You have to assess. But again, every second counts.
Yes, I do. And on that note, I know that you've done CPR trainings from homes for businesses. What is the youngest age that should be taught?
Well, you have to have enough. I would say a 12, 13-year-old child. And the reason I say that is because you have to have enough strength to press down on that chest. You have to break the bone. You have to break that cartilage. You have to go down. And if you're not strong enough, then you're just not doing anything. Thinking you are and actually performing and doing is a whole different ball game.
Right. Wow.
But
So
that's
now
why
let's,
it's important to have these people come out with mannequins and let young people see what it takes.
right.
And when I was at a table and I was at one of your events there in Valparaiso, I brought a mannequin and I was telling these kids when they were pressing down, you need to go to the gym. You need to work out because you couldn't save a person's life.
Yeah, that's
Like,
important. That's important.
you're
Wow.
trying, the effort's there, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have any value.
No, and we need to think about these things, guys. And this is Real Talk with EVE. We have David A. Ward Sr. here, an author, not just a speaker, not just a consultant, safety consultant, but written a very important book, and he's also came up and produced a coloring book for our kids to learn about safety. And you guys seen it. I'm going to bring it back up on the screen. It's a book that you all need to read. Tell us real quick of the face of safety and those left behind when tragedy strikes.
Well, that's not the coloring book. The coloring
No,
book is
no,
coloring your
this
way
book
to,
first.
yeah.
Right.
For this one is the faces of safety and those left behind. Again, it's all about when somebody gets injured or killed at work, it's the family members who have to pick up all the pieces. It's the family members who have the mental, emotional, financial stress. Does anybody truly care? Does anybody even think about going to the funeral? Does anybody think about reaching out to the family after everything is done and staying in contact? If they were that important of an employee, shouldn't they be important afterwards as well?
That's right. That is so, so true, Dave. And so, as you could see, where you can get the book, you can go on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Ingram Spark. We are going to bring some of these books into some libraries so that families can't afford the book. They can check it out and read it. Obviously, with the coloring book, I'm going to ask parents, grandparents, get that coloring book, bring it home to teach your children about safety. They can get the book in the same places as The Face of Safety, Dave.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So
You can
yes, it's
actually get,
important.
yes.
Go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm
the
sorry.
the Coloring your way to safety at home, school, and play should be in everyone's home. If you have children, grandchildren, if you're an aunt, if you're an uncle, if you're a grandparent, sit down, take the time, enjoy the time with your grandkids, enjoy the time with your own kids, and do something that they would enjoy. Listen, you can learn a lot by letting them do the activities in this coloring book, and because they're going to express what's really in their heart. And after you're done coloring and talking, then you can peruse the coloring book and say, wow, our kid
Yeah,
has this or
and
that.
it's engagement. Look, it also brings the child and the parent together in a different way. It's engaging.
Absolutely.
It's engaging instead
Yep.
of learning it from a tablet or TV screen or what have you. This is actually them coloring it, and so I want to thank you for that. And this is important, and I hope that this may have sparked somebody's light turned on and saying, "Oh, why didn't I think of that?" Or "I wish I would have known," or "I'm glad to know now." Right? And Dave, as we brought up here, you can always reach out to David A. Ward as Senior, speaks.com. That's David A. Ward Senior speaks.com. If you want him to come and speak at your school, at your company, at a conference about safety, he's the man to talk about it because he's worked with OSHA. He's been an inspector. How long? How many years? Inspecting
Over
companies.
4 decades. Over four
Over 4
decades.
decades. And what, you start out at age 15, age 10?
17.
Getting close, right? So guys, you heard it from someone that knows, from the expert. And I want to bring in more solutions here for people to learn from it, because often than not, fear is what stops us from doing anything. And fear is fear itself. And for those of you that are believers, you know that God is not about fear. He doesn't give you the spirit of fear, but a sound mind instead. So closing call to action. Anything you want to lastly say to our audience?
Take care of one another. Prepare yourselves for the unknown. CPR, it's absolutely life-saving. So the power is in your hands, no pun intended. And everybody should use their hands to save the life of someone else.
And that's important. So for someone listening right now, who has never been certified or whose certification is about to expire or already expired, what is the first thing that they should do tomorrow morning?
Contact their local fire department or a trainer and get a hold of somebody in their local area and ask them what it takes to get certified, retrained, and if they come to your home, to train your entire family.
That's it. And you know what? You can make it a picnic out of it. Invite the trainer, cook out, and you're learning together as a family because you know how to save each other and not rely on when that paramedic decides to get there.
Yes.
Right? So we want to thank you once again for coming on Real Talk with EVE. And this show was sponsored by Sueño Restaurant. It's an upscale restaurant out in Cherville. Shout out to Samuel Cervantes. Thank you for sponsoring this show. We appreciate you. And go out and eat there because they have some amazing, everything's made from scratch, Dave. If you have not been there, you got to go there. Okay. That red snapper, I'm not a fish eater, but let me tell you, it's a delicatessen. With that, guys, we got to go. Thank you once again, Dave, and we'll be back next Thursday.
Take care.
Until next time. Thank you. All right, guys, this is it. It's a wrap. So with that, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here and being loyal to this program. Until next time, nos vemos. Hasta luego.